Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. Sitting in the lab, putting in work, and was thinking about something that I felt I would stop long enough to share with you this morning. I hope that you are getting your week off to a good start. That you have closed out a very productive and functional and prosperous week last week, and that you are prepared to move forward. For whatever reason, things didn't go the way that you wanted them to go last week. We're starting a new week. There's an opportunity to make some changes. There's an opportunity to raise the bar. There's an opportunity to go out and reclaim and win. As long as you're still breathing, you're in the fight. And always remember that. There are the description box that you can access and use, whether you want to work with me directly, whether you want to access one of the programs, you want one of the books, one of the latest books, so you go to the site and you can get access to all of them at some point. All of that's in there. I have a few spots that are available to work directly with me. If you're serious about making a life change, willing to make a minimum of a 12-week commitment up to a year commitment. We have programs that last a year where you work directly with me on a weekly basis. If you're willing to make that commitment, definitely reach out to me. Let's make it happen. Now, let's start. It's almost a guarantee that you've heard at some point in your life that you need to know your worth. You got a lot of people who are perceived or viewed or make declarations of being an expert in a certain area. And one of the most common phrases that are put out there by professionals and laymen alike is know your worth. Know your worth. And you're told that. But the question arises to almost everyone that's ever been told to know your worth is, what does that mean? What do you mean when you tell me that I need to know my worth? And more importantly, but almost always left out is, how do I do it? Well, I'm going to give you the short version this morning. Knowing your worth means the first, have an understanding that you bring value to the world, or that you have an inherent value that you are meant to share with the world. It means that you are not without value. Now, how you express yourself, how you live, what you think and believe, what you think and believe is immensely important in the way of understanding um, your value. But it's to know what you're bringing to the table, what you are bringing to the table. I got all kind of alerts coming in. Excuse me, that's wifey. Oh, this is kind of important. Y'all excuse me. She's out showing the house, and I always have to make sure she's safe. You guys hold on. I'm gonna probably have to edit this on the thing. I don't want to lose you because I don't feel like creating this, but I need to speak with her on this. Hey, I'm still on the video, but I had to step away because this. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm still on the video. I just stepped away for a second because this is important. Look, what you have to do is because I wanted to make sure you to avoid any accidental firings. There's no bullet in the chamber, so even if somebody pulled the trigger, nothing's there. So you would have to chamber your first round, meaning that you would have to slide that whole thing back like I taught you. And when you slide it all the way back and let it go, it's going to chamber your first round, and now you're locked and loaded. Just make sure your safety's off. No, you can slide it with the safety on. You can load it. You can actually load it with the safety on, but it won't fire. It won't fire. So you right. So if you need to chamber around just to be one step ahead, you can chamber that round, but make sure you put your safety on because if that trigger squeezes, that it will fire. Okay. All right. No problem. Bye. Man, with the way real estate agents are getting, kidnapped and killed for all kind of crazy thing, and it's always been dangerous showing homes. So I make sure that she's trained, she knows how to shoot, and she's just sitting up and she's making sure and everything. So um, sorry about that, but that was definitely important. But I didn't want to lose you guys by shutting down and starting all over. So back. So here we are. We're in a situation where you're asking yourself, well, what is knowing my worth? Knowing your worth is knowing that you have a value and discovering what that value is you bring to the world. And what most people do is they depend on the random opinions of other people to define them. They're looking for external validation. They're looking for someone else to tell them who they are, what they are, and how special they are. And so they are defined and their value is set by someone else. I mean, it's done in so many areas of life, and I don't want to mention them here because I don't want anyone to think that I'm being condescending or I'm looking down because I'm not better than anyone. I'm still learning, still growing. I've just done some things in my life because I decided to take the roof off. And what I want to help people do is take the roof off and get out there and experience life, take the bumps and the bruises, but gain the rewards. But you're waiting on someone else to tell you how valuable you are. In a relationship, if you don't know how valuable you are when you get there, you may not be told the truth. The person's behavior might not be the truth. You may not have even been told the truth by your parents. There are a bunch of parents who never discovered who they are and never knew their true value. And it's impossible for them to not see the value in themselves and be able to see the value in you. So you've been defined erroneously in many cases. And you've taken that and you've identified with it and you've established your expectations from life based on an erroneous value or assessment. So in the erroneous assessment, that's where a lot of your problem lies, is that you don't know how valuable you are to the world. You don't know how valuable you are and the power you have. I was telling the young brother earlier this morning that you have to know who you are. The first accessing of power doesn't come from external forces, external ideas, external reasonings, any other person, any other company. It comes from knowing who you are. So then how do I determine my value? It calls for self-exploration. You have to be willing to look at yourself and be honest with yourself. And see, a lot of people tell you an introspective examination and being honest with yourself is all about admitting the things that are wrong about you. But there's the flip side of that very few people talk about, and that's where you find your value. When you take an introspective examination, when you go through the process of self-exploration, you're going to find out some things about yourself that's beautiful, that's powerful, that's influential, that is a part of your gifting. And I'm going to tell you, and you've heard me say this before, I've worked with many, many, many people uh, in many, many different from many, many different walks of life. And I can tell you whether they had Down syndrome, whether they were autistic, whether they come from poverty, whether they were homeless, no matter what, I was able to find and define a gift. I was able to point them to their gift. I was able to show them they had value. You being homeless doesn't mean you're valueless. You not having any money in your bank account doesn't mean you lack value. Your worth is not in your bank account. Your worth is not in your material assets. Your worth is in what you've been gifted with. Your greatest resource is your resourcefulness that comes from what's within. If you can think it, you can create it. Not easy. Not talking some mabble babble. What I'm saying is you are what you conceive in your mind and think out and live. And if you're thinking lowly of yourself, you will produce lowly results, because just to maintain your sanity, your behavior has to align with your self-image and your self-concept. Are you following me? So then, if that is the case, you have to understand who you are, not what someone said, but who you are. You have to say, what do I do well? What do I do well? Why, what do I do well? What comes easy to me? What makes me feel the best? When are people feeling the best around me? And that's where it really comes in. I have value to myself, but I also have values. That's something you do that lifts other people. It may be financially, it may be emotionally, it may be psychologically, spiritually, it may be instructionally. It could be in a lot of different ways. There's something that just naturally comes to you. Now, it could be that life has caused you to suppress it, shrink it, put it aside because it didn't fit the narrative of what life was telling you. See, life doesn't write the narrative, you do. You've got to understand. One of the things I see, instead of self-exploration, I see far too many people watching the lives of others, and social media has made it just that much easier to be watching what the Joneses are doing instead of discovering who you are and the route you must take and the narrative you should be writing and the life you should be living. You're watching someone else, but you don't have the whole story. You're watching it from a distance. You're seeing it as it's being presented, but you're not observing what's going on behind the scene. And I mean for the good things that are happening in people's lives. You're not seeing everything that they had to fight through to get there. You're not seeing the nights that they didn't sleep in order to be where they are today, the nights that they sit up and cried themselves to sleep, the days that they sit up and were in anguish about what they were going through at the moment, but just had one thing about them: they refused to give up. So you don't see that. You're seeing all of the glory, and you don't get into the backstory behind it. And so you're sitting up and you're judging your life, and you're dismissing and marginalizing and making your life and your impact insignificant because you can't measure up to what they've accomplished, but you don't know their story and how far they come from. Your job isn't to observe them by way of seeing where they're at and measure yourself. Your job is to look inside of yourself and see who you are. Your job is to sit up and say, there's something in me that when I'm doing this, I feel great. I feel awesome. I feel indestructible. I feel invincible. There's something about living life on this level at this place that just makes me want to stand up. And what'll happen is people will talk you off the ledge. People will sit up and try to push you back into the box that they've designed for you, because that's as big as they can think. And that's as big as they can see, and they want you walking and living in it. Your responsibility is not to acquiesce to the suggestions of other people about yourself. Your job is to look within and see you. Stop looking at everybody else. You got something else you got to do. You got to watch yourself talk. You got to stop talking your weaknesses and start talking your strengths. You got to stop talking setbacks and start talking progression. You got to stop talking about failure, start talking about succeeding through failure. You got to have an idea of what you're speaking. Your self-talk is literally the software and the programming that your brain, the supercomputer, is uploading and functioning off of. You're literally talking your reality into existence as you move forward. Stop speaking that which you don't desire. You got to start living life at the level of your design. So you got to study your design. You got to gain an understanding of who you are, where you are, what you were meant to do, not about what people want you to do. See, people want you to do things that will align with what benefits them. People will want you to be functioning in a way that benefits them. They will train you and send you to school to function, to serve someone else's need, and never ever addressed your gift. They will have you learning mathematics. They will have you learning how to verbally communicate at a level that's acceptable at someone else's vision and dream, but never conquer or ask you about what it is that you were designed or built to do. That's why we have children unprepared. That's why we got an entire generation of unprepared adults, because nobody's tapping into the gift. Everybody is training to serve somebody else's purpose. You can't find your value in somebody else's purpose. You got to find your value in discovering your own. No job is going to pay you what you're truly worth, because then it would not be a profitable endeavor. They've got to determine what you're worth, and then they will tell you that your value is, and this is what we'll pay you. And you will accept that value, not knowing that you are devaluing yourself and that you are not getting close to what you're truly worth. And you will start to adjust your entire life off an assessment someone else made for you. This is not taking a shot at anybody that's working. Feed the family. This is what I'm telling you, though. I'm telling you that if you ever want to discover who you are, you're going to have to look past what your job will pay you, what some other person thinks of you, what some other person says about you, and understand what's on the inside of you and what capacity comes with that gift. That's your value. That's your worth. When I say know your worth, I mean you got to look inside of you and see what you bring into the table. A lot of what you have in way of potential hasn't even been accessed, let alone actualized, let alone activated and actualized. There's something inside of you that's powerful. God doesn't do mediocre. God doesn't do average. If you're living average, if you don't feel like you have an impact, if you're not experiencing any level of power in your life to exact change, to impact others, then you're not living at the level of your design. Know your worth. You got to stop talking poverty, start talking wealth. It's a different thought process. Your wealth isn't in your bank account. Oh, y'all don't hear me. Your wealth isn't in your bank account. Your wealth is in your ability to create. Because, see, when you discover your ability to create, there's another element of your worth. Listen to me. When you discover your ability to create, you determine that no longer do you have to directly depend upon anyone in particular to create that thing for yourself which you desire. You can come up with creative, ethical, legal, and respected ways to get it. It is not held in check by a rule or a box that if you don't apply, that if you don't qualify, you don't get to have it. No, you get to create by way of the gift. Now, for those of you who are Christians, there's a part that says that your gift will make room for you and that it will put you before great men. Gift will make room for you. Not sitting up letting somebody else define you. Your gift. Not sitting up falling for whoever said something about you when you were 3 years old and it stuck. Your gift. Not the assessments of your parents. Your gift. Not the assessment of your peers. Your gift. Not the assessment of some mate that couldn't understand what they had in front of them. Your gift will make room for you. The problem is very few people are operating in their gift. Stop speaking past occurrences and realities and start speaking future developments. Stop letting what went wrong in the past weigh you down. Now, I'm not saying that you don't learn from past mistakes. I'm not saying that you don't hold yourself accountable for what you should be doing and are not doing, or what you're doing and shouldn't be doing. That's not what I'm saying. Accountability is at the top of of this complex equation. You got to hold yourself accountable for being the best you can be, for making good choices, good decisions, in empowering yourself through the gathering of knowledge that you can convert to wisdom through experience. It's got to be you saying, okay, if it's not happening, it's something on me. But what I'm saying is you can't let somebody define you and take on life that way. You gotta, if you're gonna take on life and says, I'm totally responsible for my life, then you got to understand the power that comes with living life that way. If you're going to say I'm responsible for my life, but you're going to let everybody else tell you who you are, what you should be doing, and why you should be doing, you're going to live a miserable life and take all the blame for everything that's going wrong. I'm going to take responsibility for what happens in my life, but that means very few people have the ability or access to me to tell me how to live it. Because when I let you in and you start to share with me and with the understanding that we are holding me accountable, I keep people around me that hold me accountable, then I gotta trust that you got my best interest in her. I gotta trust that you see my value. I gotta trust that you see my worth. In order for you to get that close, that's why I don't have that many people around me that I let pour into me or speak into my life at all. I don't want yes men around me, because they'll cause me to crash more often than they cause me to succeed. They will get my mind and my ego inflated, and I'll be crashing into things that don't move. I don't need yes men. I need men that believe in me but say, hey, look, that wasn't the smartest thing in the world. What were you thinking when you did that? You better than that, bro. Come on, man. I need someone who's going to look at me and say, baby, you got more in you. Let's go get it. But it's got to be that. You got to have this ability to look inside and, despite of current circumstances, still see the greatness in you, the value in you, the worth in you. Your worth is the sum total of the impact that you bring to the world. You can evaluate and assess that worth by way of value by understanding who you are, what you are, and what your purpose is. And when you discover that, things change. I'm telling you, things change in some very powerful and unique ways. I often tell people when I'm speaking that when you discover your purpose, it will literally explain your pain. There are some things you've been through and it didn't make no sense at all, and you couldn't understand it. You were angry, you were frustrated. But then when you discovered your purpose, you say, wow, I'm built for this because of that. It's time that you understand just what you're built for. That's understanding your value. That's understanding your worth. I dare you. I dare you to become bold enough to stand. I dare you to become bold enough to live within the beautiful parameters of your purpose. Life is challenging, but it can't stand up to purpose. It just can't. Live your life on full. You've heard me say this a million times. Live your life on full so that when you leave this place, you leave on E. That's my challenge to you. Live this life on full. Know your worth. I'm going to get ready to get out of here. Like I said, for those of you who want the books, the links in there, those of you who want to work with me, there's ways that in here that you can work with me. Set it up. Don't wait. Don't sit on it. That's something I see a lot of people too doing. They say they want something, but they're not making any moves. It's like they're waiting for this perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is no right time. The time is at the moment that you know you should be doing it, to take the first step. I'm challenging you now to step out and walk into something exceptional and something extraordinary. I would love to work with some of you. Like I said, I have a few slots. It calls for a minimum of a 12-week commitment, and I have a program that runs all the way up to 52 weeks, an entire year. And the people that are actually doing that full year are just having an unbelievable time. One of them's on here right now. Hey, what's going on, Kim? Hope you're feeling better, because we need to get back to work. But it's about change, and it's about understanding who you are, and it's about setting a standard of living based on who you are and refusing to compromise on the bar you've raised. It'll set the tolerance for what you will accept from other people. You're going to find that the relationships you build are more quality, more caring, more productive in intimacy, in romance, in parenting, in friendships, in business. You're going to find out when you raise that bar and you refuse to compromise, you build based off the quality of your expectations. And you deflect based off of the intolerance created by the higher standard. On that note, I'm gonna get off here. Like I just said a few moments ago, I live my life on full each and every day. I don't go to bed having taken anything from today with me as far as what I had to give. I give it, and then I go to bed and I recuperate and I communicate with God, the divine. I interact with the mind of God, and I wake up rejuvenated with a new mission, with the same destiny. I dare you to start living life at the level of your design. I challenge you to rise and live life at the next level. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. I thank you guys for stopping by and giving me a few moments of your Sunday. And on that note, I'll talk to you soon. I'm out.